Welcome to the Crossroads for Hope Coffee Chat. My name is Katie Hill. I am the development manager in charge of corporate relationships at Crossroads for Hope and the moderator for the event this morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our casual bring your own coffee chat about the cancer experience. Before we begin, there's a couple of housekeeping notes. First, please be aware that the webinar is being recorded. While you are not seen or heard, your questions may be visible. And speaking of questions, if you have any, please enter them in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen on the right-hand side, rather than using the chat function. We'll be able to look at the Q&A and either answer your questions in real time, or we will answer them at the end live for our panelists. Now let's get started. Crossroads for Hope, formerly known as Cancer Support Community Central New Jersey, is the safe space where people turn first to restore one's whole being and family. We empower all people touched by cancer to take control of their health and well-being. Our network embraces everyone touched by cancer, the diagnosed and their family members, through programs of support, resources, education, well-being, and hope. We never charge individuals for our services, thanks to the generosity of donors. And to get us started this morning, I am pleased to introduce Brian Cain, a pharmaceutical company professional, member of the Crossroads for Hope Board of Trustees, and chair of our Pharma-Biotech Task Force, which is hosting this event. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Cain, and I lead this task force for Crossroads for Hope. And I really appreciate you being with us today on a sunny day in New Jersey. Some of our friends on the call this morning knew us as Cancer Support Community of Central New Jersey. We're excited to share with you that as of February 1st, we've left the CSC affiliation to renew our focus on underserved populations throughout New Jersey and to recommit ourselves to our founder's vision of providing social and emotional support embedded in the community. I'm excited to introduce you to Crossroads for Hope. While our name has changed, our commitment to face cancer side by side with anyone affected by the disease does not change. During today's call, I'll share with you how I decided to spend my time advocating on behalf of Crossroads for Hope and volunteering to lead this task force. Amy Sutton, the CEO, will provide more details about Crossroads for Hope, particularly during COVID. She'll speak to our work in the New Jersey community and our outreach to underserved communities. Finally, Darleen Shamus, a Merck employee, cancer survivor, and Crossroads for Hope member turned volunteer, will share her story. For me, I have a lifetime working in oncology and many therapeutic areas for pharma and biotech companies, leading global analytics, data, and market research teams. When I was a brand new sales rep working in a teaching hospital, I asked the doctor, "What will happen to this patient?" And he responded, "Without treatment, he'll die." It was literally at that moment it hit me, just how crucial and urgent our mission is as we work in this industry. As my career progressed, I attended many market research sessions, watching patients, cancer patients. I heard their stories. I realized that it's not just about the patients. It's also about the patient ecosystem and how they share their fears and the burden of the disease with family and friends who don't always know how to help. Both the patients and their support systems at times feel helpless. Each time I sat and listened to focus groups, I would cry as common themes emerged. Patients and their families want hope. They want a chance. They just want to go on with their lives. I believe all of us are in this line of work because we want to help patients and do some good in the world. Partnering with Crossroads for Hope is a vehicle to help more people. It's all about the patients. We want to bring them hope. That's what Crossroads for Hope does. I decided to be part of this task force because the group is committed to forging new partnerships, to work together to bring hope to patients, and Crossroads for Hope can be that partner. Crossroads for Hope can bring education and counseling to managers, employees, and your HR department to support a team that is affected by an employee's diagnosis. These programs can help us understand the impact of the disease and how we can best support our colleague and team members. They can also bring in instructors to conduct health and wellness classes or lunch and learns. Crossroads for Hope believes that our companies are part of the community and is committed to supporting employees where they live, work, and play. At the end of today's call, we'll share with you contact information about how to begin these partnership conversations. A good friend in pharma, Mike Zott, introduced me to this organization. And it was in my initial meeting with Amy Sutton, our next speaker, where both the commitment of the organization and the passion of the leader were readily apparent. I was inspired and decided to see how I could help. And with that, I'm pleased to turn it over to Amy, where she can discuss more details about Crossroads for Hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And thanks to all of you for your important work in oncology. I'm excited to talk with you about our network of cancer support. Crossroads for Hope works alongside other organizations to fight cancer. Visualize the oncology landscape as a pyramid. At the top are the organizations searching for cures, such as pharmaceutical companies represented on this call, and groups like the National Cancer Institute, American Cancer Society, and academic medical centers. In the middle of the pyramid represents the hospitals and health professionals focused on treating the disease. And at the foundation of the pyramid is the community where patients and families live and work. Crossroads for Hope is rooted in community, providing vital support to address the expressed emotional and social needs of all those affected by the disease. We provide the support and tools to cope with a cancer diagnosis, and through the crisis, we activate individuals to become resilient and empowered to take control of their health and well-being. Regardless of the type or stage of cancer, place of treatment, age, or insurance coverage, anyone can access our services directly without a physician referral. Over 1,000 people per week are diagnosed with cancer in New Jersey, and we know that that number has changed because of the pandemic. Now those cancers, many of them exist undetected. A few years ago, we launched our strategic plan, our vision for the future, focusing on building capability, capacity, and infrastructure needed to address the growing burden and unmet needs of cancer patients, survivors, families, and caregivers across diverse communities. Our 5 core pillars are support for families, nutrition, multicultural outreach, person and family-centered care, and financial unmet needs. While no one could have imagined the impact of COVID-19, the ensuing economic crisis, and the ongoing social unrest, we were able to quickly adapt, leveraging our experience in addressing the human impact of cancer as a health crisis. When health officials shut down our in-person operations, we closed our physical doors on March 15th, 2020, and the next day opened our virtual doors, ensuring our vital services were accessible at a time when they were needed more than ever. In fact, we've experienced a 25% increase in the number of people turning to us for support and a 40% increase in overall visits. Crisis, especially a health crisis, comes with common attributes: shock, anxiety, distress, and a disruption in normal routines, leading to feelings of fear and isolation. These feelings were compounded by the impact of patients being cut off from the healthcare system, which was forced to limit access to mitigate the spread of COVID. And for those already experiencing health disparities, barriers to care that existed prior to a cancer diagnosis, such as transportation and food insecurity and even mistrust, only worsened. In 2020, Crossroads4Hope reached out to 1,100 of our members to provide an emotional touch point for some and a lifeline for others. It quickly became evident just how complex cancer patients' lives had become. Our help was needed most to address the fear and isolation because patients were unable to have their support system with them at treatments or during hospital stays. To help people cope with a recent diagnosis or changing condition because they could not share their concerns with family already overwhelmed by the pandemic. To assist with practical needs patients faced because, for example, their health was too fragile to go to the grocery store for food shopping, and food service delivery was inundated with new customers. To support parents with cancer struggling with young children who are no longer buffered by school from the full extent of their cancer diagnosis and debilitating side effects. To allow our advanced cancer support group to safely meet on our property because members feared they would not live long enough to see each other in person again. To support those who lost loved ones through the pain of being unable to be with them when they died, or participate in traditional rituals that help people grieve. In addition to these critical one-on-one interventions, and regular monthly classes, groups, programs, we have several new and exciting initiatives. My Go-To Support, a human digital program integrated with intelligent behavioral health platforms, thanks to an investment from Novartis, will be launched in the next few weeks. This program and technology will allow us to scale our efforts and embed the program into clinical workflows. For vulnerable communities, increase accessibility of our work. We will be able to conduct health disparity evaluations and provide ongoing real-time assessments for distress and depression for patients, caregivers, and the bereaved. My Go-To Support will allow us to collect data and monitor the impacts of our psychosocial interventions. Also, Daiichi Sankyo and Bristol Myers Squibb are funding the development and implementation of a unique program to create activation in the Black community, which will enable lay members within faith-based organizations, who they named gladiators, to deploy an educational toolkit initially focused on activating people around clinical trials. And finally, BEAR is funding the expansion of our school-based programs and interventions to help address the unmet needs of children, parents, and school professionals. Additionally, we are expecting to break ground in 2021 on a new building that will include a dedicated space for children in our programs and a demonstration teaching kitchen with the technology to record and broadcast nutrition interventions, which we have developed in partnership with the American Institute for Cancer Research and Living Plate. 18 years ago, our organization was founded on the belief that everyone affected by cancer should have a safe place to turn for emotional and social support at no charge. Our founders, led by 4 women in the community who had personal and professional experience with cancer, transformed their vision into action, and today we continue to deliver on their belief, our promise. Our ongoing commitment to the community gives us a deep understanding of the needs faced by all those affected by cancer and the ability to address those needs, especially for those in vulnerable communities. On behalf of our staff and Board of Trustees, thank you for participation today. Please reach out to Katie to learn more about partnering with us to support your employees or joining with us to create sustainable change for people facing cancer. I'd now like to introduce Darleen Shamus, a member of our community and now a key volunteer who will share her story.
Thank you, Amy, Brian, and Katie. In 2012, I never would have imagined I'd be diagnosed with cancer. No less be here today sharing my cancer journey. Not because I didn't think I would be here because my cancer was advanced or because my treatments were making me very sick. No, I was very fortunate that my cancer was caught very early. I had always been diligent and fortunate and getting my checkups on time. And I knew that when I received this diagnosis, the doctors all told me this would be a temporary inconvenience. And I believe that to be true as well. I'm a wife and a mother of 3 grown children. I'm also a niece who lost her aunt to breast cancer, a daughter-in-law who lost her father-in-law to pancreatic cancer, and a daughter who lost her mother to lung cancer. I saw firsthand what cancer can do. I'm also a full-time executive assistant at a pharmaceutical company, Merck. During my entire treatment process, I continued to work full-time with the support of my manager, who gave me the flexibility I needed to manage handling both a brand new role at the company and a cancer treatment. My doctors were wonderful. They led me through the treatment part of my journey in a way I realized that was best for me. My husband and I referred to it as waiting for my end zone dance. Just when we thought I could spike that ball in the end zone and do my dance, the doctors would pull that ball out a few yards and tell me there was just a bit more I needed to do. When I completed my radiation treatment, there had been a countdown going for 6 weeks. On the last day of treatment, my family was doing the end zone dance for me. There were flowers and gifts. They were all celebrating. I was grateful and happy, but more than anything, I just wanted a nap. After the daily treatment appointments were over, those words spoken by my surgeon, "Darleen, you have breast cancer," continued to echo in my head. It's hard hearing that someone you love has been diagnosed with cancer, but it's different when your doctor's saying those words to you. It's true. As soon as you hear those words, your life does change forever. In that instant, your priorities change, your schedule clears, and life with your loved ones becomes a precious desire for more time. Things you knew you would do someday, you now realize maybe you should have done some of them already, and you wonder, will I ever be able to do those things with the people I love? It's quite a reality check. So with treatment over, the reassurance of seeing the nurse again tomorrow didn't exist. I was left to manage those echoing words in my thoughts, and that became the next battle I had to manage. For about 18 months, I never felt like I did my end zone dance, and I didn't know why. Something was different. By all means, I should have been thrilled. I should have been relieved, but I wasn't. I wasn't sick or hurting. I just couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't want to burden my family with these feelings. I felt bad enough for what I had already put them through to that point. My manager had already been so flexible and supportive. I didn't want to seem like I was strong enough to handle all that was going on. A part of me also felt a bit ashamed. My cancer was caught so early. Why was I still obsessing over this? I confided in my girlfriend, who always said a good friend and a bottle of Chardonnay is as good as any therapy. But she finally said she couldn't walk in my shoes and that I needed to get some professional help. I wasn't quite so convinced. So I reached out to another cancer survivor at work. We met for a cup of coffee. I asked him how he was dealing with the emotional roller coaster I had felt I had been on. Any new ache or pain, I had to talk myself out of the fact that it wasn't a new form of cancer, or that maybe we didn't get it all. Or when I go for a checkup and the doctor says, "I think we should biopsy that." Those words are like a kick in the gut. I felt like I always had to be braced for more bad news. From the day I was told I had cancer, I always felt like I had to have my feet planted firmly on the ground because I needed to be stronger than any words told to me, any test that was given to me, or any procedure I had to go through. But my friend didn't seem to have those same sentiments. I was happy for him. I did ask him if he thought it was because he had several more years of riding this roller coaster than I did. And we just figured that was likely why. But I still wasn't convinced. I was just happy he was in a good place and embraced life. And we admitted that since we were diagnosed, our priorities were different and we were okay with that. I felt like I was always looking over my shoulder, worried the cancer would come back. I was grateful we caught it so early, but I couldn't help but worry about what may happen next. It was a short time thereafter I read on the company newsletter that there was a support group for those who were finished with their active cancer treatment within the past 2 years and had no current signs of cancer. It was Cancer Transitions, Moving Beyond Cancer Treatment, and run by the Cancer Support Community of Central New Jersey, now called Crossroads for Hope. I signed up and met with the group at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital. All the participants, both men and women, had different forms of cancer. Our paths had differences, but we all had one thing in common. We were all worried about what happens next. We were scared and afraid. That very first meeting, the first thing we shared after our name was that we were scared. But then we were all told that was normal. I was so relieved to hear that I was feeling normal and that I wasn't the only one feeling that way. That first meeting was such a relief for me. I realized I had been paralyzed by fear. I felt I could finally stop looking over my shoulder and start moving forward again. I was able to find my new normal and accept that this is my new normal. When you're no longer looking over your shoulder, you can now see what lies ahead of you. And I couldn't wait to catch up on everything that I had been missing. I felt like I received a breath of fresh air and that I had found my wings and I was ready to use them. I truly felt like I had come out of my shell as a much better version of me. I was so grateful for what the program did for me. I knew I had to give back, and I've been volunteering for this organization ever since. I was so grateful to have found the information about the Cancer Transitions program in the company newsletter. It was a way for me to share my feelings without dragging any of my family through a more emotional drama, and I was able to do it in my own private way. It wasn't until I was with people who had walked a similar path was I able to truly understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling, acknowledge that it was real and normal, and begin moving forward and feeling better about everything. It was a wonderful program that provided me with a real and lasting benefit. My hope is that this program finds its way to all those who've completed their cancer treatment. It truly should become a part of every cancer patient's journey. And there are so many more programs that benefit cancer patients and families provided by Crossroads for Hope that every patient and family should experience. I hope you choose to share information about the programs and services of Crossroads for Hope with the employees at your company. I'm so glad my company did. It positively changed my life. I'd like to thank you and stay well. Now back to Katie.
Thank you so much, Darleen, for sharing your story and being so brave to be in such a public forum to talk about your feelings and emotions. At this point, now's the time to put any more questions that you might have in the Q&A box. They can be questions for any one of our current panelists or general questions. It looks like there's one question. This might be an easy one for you, Amy, to answer. If I know someone who needs help, how do I get in contact?
The best way is to call our office directly, and that number is 908-658-5400. The other way is you can email our program team at programteam@crossroads4Hope.org. And Katie, I don't know if we can put that in the chat box for people.
Absolutely, and we'll flash up a slide too with some contact information as we're talking. This is actually another good question for Amy. Please tell me more about support groups at corporations for employees, and how can we get that started?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of companies have those activities or employee-based activities like that. There's some coordination with the Human Resources Department. So I think that if that's something that you're interested in, the best thing to do is to reach out for our program team, and we can talk about the best person in your company to coordinate with, just to make sure that the organization is on board with an activity like this. But those are the types of things that are so important, which is bringing these services to people where they work and live, right? So, you know, having something like that available to employees is really valuable and something that we would absolutely welcome a conversation on how to do that.
Absolutely. There was a question about what are some of our regular programs and services, and I know we have a slide on that that we could bring up. So these are the types of things that we do every day. And you can see here the different pillars of our organization and how we can support an individual and a family and their children. Another question, Amy, besides funding, which is kind of one of those things that pharmaceutical companies are always tasked with or talked to about, either through their foundation or through their advocacy department, what are other ways that we can partner together to support each other?
So I think one of the opportunities that often comes to mind when we're talking about companies are volunteer opportunities. So corporate volunteer projects are always ways to get employees engaged. Oftentimes when we bring people into an activity, a corporate group, we also talk about our services, which helps us raise awareness for our work. But there's other things that we're working on. For example, some of the projects that I mentioned earlier, things like the clinical trial toolkit and programs like that, there's ways for us to engage the expertise of corporations into that work. So I think the best thing to do, just like we're doing today, is to have the conversation. So if this is something that you want to explore, I think the first step is to reach out to Katie and we start the conversation and see how we can best support the things that you would like to accomplish. Because in the end, it's all about helping patients and families and relieving the burden of the disease on them. And so whatever we can do and whatever that looks like, we're here. We're in the community to serve.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, I think that is it for us today. We are so grateful that you are all here and spent a couple minutes with us this morning. And again, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My contact information is here on the slides, and we hope that you learn more about the work we are doing to address disparities to healthcare access in multicultural communities, how we can partner to support you and your employees and your friends and family, and have an opportunity to hear a story about the emotional toll of cancer even after it has been cured. Please do contact me to discuss next steps, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all very much.